And now we're ready for example number 6 of higher degree equations. Here we go again. So why is this higher degree? Third power, all right? First power linear, second power quadratic. Anything higher than that, for our purposes, kind of simplifying things a little bit, but anything above the second power is a higher degree equation. So x cubed, that would be the big deal there. So again, we have discussed every scenario now as far as higher degree equations. Clear fractions? Nope. Distribute? Nope. Subtraction? Combine like terms? Nope. None of that. Is the variable in one term? There's x's all over the place. There's several terms that have x. So again, much like the previous example, we get it in what the fancy people call standard form, whereby we bring everything over to the same side of the equation and make it equal 0. All right? So at this juncture, we would have 3x cubed minus 15x squared minus 21x equals 0. By the way, notice I'm thinking ahead. We're going to look into factoring here in a minute. And so I made sure to put those powers from highest to lowest in descending order as we've mentioned. All right? So there's standard form. It equals 0. All right, here we go. Will it factor? So factoring again would be a flashback. That would be something that you hopefully remember how to do. Doodle-doo, doodle-doo, doodle-doo. All right? So, let's see here. And I'm really sorry, I'd love to play a lot of the links, but it's kind of hard in this format to make that work. I know you're just dying to see them all. Sorry. But anyway, when we look at factoring here, you would hopefully realize that there is a common factor. We can divide every term by 3, as well as the fact that we can factor out an x. All right, so we factor out that 3x, and the equation then becomes this. And this has factored to some extent, all right? We do indeed at this point have 2 factors. And by the way, sorry, but I need to augment my income a little bit, so just remember in a case like this to factor out that x. So this question was brought to you by Gatorade X Factor. Remember, whenever possible, to factor out the x. Gatorade X Factor, find it at your local grocer. My agent got me a deal with them. Sorry for the little product placement, but I've got to do whatever I can to augment my income during these times. Anyway, I appreciate you understanding that. So now, let's see, where were we again? Mr. Sauerkraut's a little confused now. All right, here we go. So we factored it. Now here's the deal. This expression won't factor any further. So you might say, well, it didn't factor, but it did. It did to some extent. We actually have 2 factors here. I want to remind you that factors are expressions that have multiplication between them, and we also have it equal 0. So we could, at this juncture, employ the zero product principle, whereby we set each one of these expressions equal to 0 and solve them individually. And of course, the first one is easy. You just divide out the 3 and x equals 0. The second one, on the other hand, when we set that trinomial equal to 0, and we've already mentioned it won't factor any further, but that did become a quadratic equation, didn't it? And so, we would flash back to quadratic equations and apply those ideas that we enjoyed together prior to spring break. All right, so when you go back to the quadratic equation flow chart recipe, where are we on this? We already have it in standard form. We've already talked about the fact it won't factor. Guess what? We get to do the quadratic formula. That's just the way it is. So here we would identify a would equal 1. That's a 1x squared. B would equal -5. And c would equal -7. And look, when we get to things that we've covered in the past, I have to just go ... do what we did before. All right, I hate doing that, but time is of the essence. I'm trying to upload as many lectures as I can in as short of amount of time as I have. So if you apply the quadratic formula to that particular trinomial, as we practiced earlier before spring break, you'll discover that the 2 values of x that the quadratic formula will produce are approximately 6.14 as well as approximately -1.14. I'll remind you that the quadratic formula is going to produce 2 answers, one of them when we do the plus, the other when we do the minus. Go back and look at your examples from assignment number 11 if you need the review on that. So anyway, we have these three answers, and I'm going to go ahead and report the solution set as being 0, 6.14, and negative 1.14. And once again, if I'm not mistaken, if you look at the instructions for this question, it mentioned that it wanted all final solutions rounded, I believe, to 2 decimal places. If I'm mistaken, please bear with me. I'll be gracious with you if you'll be gracious with me. All right? So that's example number 6. And we've got one more higher degree equation to enjoy together. So, see you in a few.